Let me show you something that happened this week, and I'm warning you right now. This is going to make you furious. There's a photo that's gone viral over the last few days. It shows a 5-year-old boy standing in a driveway in Minnesota. He's wearing a blue hat with floppy ears. He's got a Spider-Man backpack, and he's surrounded by masked ICE agents. His name is Liam Conejo Ramos. He's 5 years old. He was just picked up from preschool. And what ICE did to him, how they used him, what they put him through, where he is right now, this is one of the most disturbing things I've covered on this channel. If you're new here, I'm Jordan Vale, and we're building a community of people who refuse to stand by while democracy is under attack. We need voices like yours in this fight, so hit that subscribe button. All right, here's what happened. Tuesday afternoon, January 20th, Columbia Heights, Minnesota. That's a suburb just north of Minneapolis. Liam is coming home from preschool with his father, Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias. They pull into their driveway. ICE agents are waiting for them. And what happens next is described by the Columbia Heights Public Schools Superintendent, Zena Stenvik. Let me read you exactly what she said at a press conference. Federal agents took Liam from a running car while it was in the family's driveway. The officers then told him to knock on the door to his home to see if other people were inside, essentially using a 5-year-old as bait. Let me make sure you understand what that means. They took this child out of the car, they pointed him toward the back door of his own home, and they told him to knock on the door to see if anyone would answer. They were using him as a tactical tool to flush out other family members. Mary Granlund is the school board chair. She was there. She witnessed this happen. When reporters asked her if she believed ICE was using Liam as bait, she answered yes. She said it's very clear from the pictures, from the videos, from firsthand accounts. She was there, and this is what happened.
Are you accusing ICE of using children as bait?
Yes, I mean it's very clear from the pictures, from the videos, from firsthand accounts. I was there. This is what happened.
Rachel James, a Columbia Heights City Council member, was also present. She watched as masked agents took Liam's father from the driveway, then pointed the boy to the back door and motioned for him to knock. Now here's the critical part. Multiple adults offered to take Liam. The school board chair offered. School officials offered. Another adult who lived in the home was outside and begged the agents to let them take care of the child. ICE refused every single offer. Instead, they made this 5-year-old knock on his own door as bait. Then, ICE transferred him into federal custody and transported him 1,200 miles to a detention center in Texas. And I need you to understand something else about this family's situation, because this is where it gets even worse. According to the family's lawyer, Mark Prokosh, and school officials, this family came to the U.S. in 2024 through the legal border crossing in Brownsville, Texas. They have an active asylum case pending. There is no deportation order against them. The father has no criminal record in Minnesota. They were following the law. They were showing up for court hearings. Superintendent Stenvik said the family has an active asylum case and had not been ordered to leave the country. She asked, "Why detain a 5-year-old? You cannot tell me that this child is going to be classified as a violent criminal." So we've got a family that entered legally, is following the asylum process, has no deportation order, no criminal record, and is showing up for their court dates. And ICE still did this. Now, the Department of Homeland Security told a very different story. Their spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, put out a statement claiming that ICE did not target a child, that the child was abandoned. Here's their version. They claim that as agents approached the driver, Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias fled on foot, abandoning his child. McLaughlin said for the child's safety, one ICE officer remained with the child while others apprehended the father. That's the official government version. The father abandoned his child. ICE stayed with the boy for his safety. Except multiple eyewitnesses who were actually there say that's not what happened. The family's attorney, Mark Prokosh, denies that Liam was abandoned. School board chair Mary Granlund, who was physically present during the arrest, disputes this completely. She said she was there when the arrest was taking place. She said multiple people, including herself, tried to say they could take Liam, but agents did not turn him over. According to reports, the father told his wife, who was inside the home, not to open the door because he feared ICE would take her too. The mother was right there, behind that door. Multiple adults outside offered to take the child inside or to school. ICE refused all of them. So we have the government claiming the child was abandoned and they were protecting him. And we have multiple eyewitnesses, school officials, a city council member, the school board chair, all saying that's false. Now, Vice President JD Vance visited Minneapolis on Thursday, and he was asked about what happened to Liam. And his response, I need you to hear this because it's one of the most absurd things I've heard from this administration.
You asked a question about this 5-year-old kid. I actually saw this terrible story while I was coming to Minneapolis. We just left Toledo, Ohio this morning for an economic messaging event. And I see this story, and I'm a father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy. And I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien. And then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America?
Did you catch that? He saw the terrible story about a 5-year-old being detained. He's a father of a 5-year-old himself. He thought, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? But then he did a little bit more follow-up research. And what did he find? Well, according to Vance, the 5-year-old was not arrested. His dad was an illegal alien, and when they went to arrest the father ran. So Vance's conclusion, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Let me address this piece by piece, because every part of what Vance just said is either misleading or completely false. First, let's talk about this claim that the child would freeze to death. It was January 20th in Minnesota. Yes, that's cold, but this child was not going to freeze to death in the few minutes it would take to hand him to one of the multiple adults who offered to care for him. School board chair Mary Granlund was there offering to take him. School officials offered to take him back to school. Another adult from the home was outside begging to take him. The mother was inside the house. This wasn't about protecting a child from freezing. This was about using that child as a tactical tool. Second, Vance says the father ran. But every single eyewitness who was actually there says that didn't happen. The school board chair who witnessed it says it didn't happen. The family's lawyer says it didn't happen. School officials say it didn't happen. So we've got the Department of Homeland Security and JD Vance claiming the father fled and abandoned his child. And we've got multiple people who were physically present saying that's false. Third, Vance keeps calling the father an illegal alien. But this family entered the United States legally through a border crossing in Brownsville, Texas. They have an active asylum case. Seeking asylum is legal under U.S. and international law. They don't have a deportation order. They've been showing up for their court hearings. So when Vance asks, are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America? He's framing a family following the legal asylum process as criminals. That's propaganda. Let me show you what CNN's Sarah Sidner reported about this, because she went through these claims point by point.
The 5-year-old child was never in danger of freezing to death. There were school officials there who said that they were happy to take him to the safe place back to school. There was a mother just behind the door. They knew that, who was too afraid to open it for fear that ICE was going to take her. But this idea that this child was just left outside, was going to be left outside to freeze to death, is just simply not true.
Exactly. There were school officials there who said they were happy to take him to a safe place, back to school. There was a mother just behind the door who was too afraid to open it for fear that ICE would take her too. But this idea that this child was just left outside and was going to freeze to death is simply not true. And I want you to think about what Vance is doing here with this freeze to death framing. He's trying to make ICE look like the heroes in this story, like they saved this poor, abandoned child from freezing in a Minnesota winter. But that's not what happened. What happened is ICE agents took a 5-year-old out of a running car in his own driveway, refused multiple offers from adults to care for him, made him knock on his own door as bait, then transported him 1,200 miles away from his family to a detention center in Texas. That's not rescue. That's cruelty. Now I need to tell you about where Liam is right now because this gets worse. He's being held at the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley, Texas. And we know what conditions are like there because lawyers and advocates have been documenting them for years. And there are recent court filings that paint an absolutely horrific picture. According to court documents and reporting from CNN and PBS, conditions at Dilley include children losing weight, food with worms in it, mold in water containers, kids crying constantly, and inadequate medical care. Lawyers have described conditions as worse than ever. So that's where 5-year-old Liam is right now, in a facility where court documents describe children eating food with worms, getting sick, losing weight, and crying every night. And I need you to understand something else. Liam is not the only student from his school who's been detained. He's the 4th student from Columbia Heights Public Schools detained in just 2 weeks. A 10-year-old was detained. 2 17-year-olds were detained. And now Liam, who's 5, 4 students, 2 weeks, one small school district. According to school officials, attendance is down by 1/3 on some days because families are terrified to send their kids to school. Think about that. Parents are so scared that ICE will take their children that they're keeping them home. A third of students missing in one district in 2 weeks. This isn't immigration enforcement. This is terrorizing an entire community. And here's what makes this even more enraging. Every single one of these families, the family with the 10-year-old, the families with the 17-year-olds, Liam's family, they were all following the asylum process. They all had active cases. They were showing up for hearings. This isn't about removing dangerous criminals. This is about sending a message. We don't care if you're following the law. We don't care if you have an active asylum case. We don't care if you're doing everything right. We will still take your children. That's the message. And it's working. Families are terrified. Kids aren't going to school. Communities are traumatized. Now, I've seen some people online trying to defend what happened to Liam. They say parents who break the law don't get special treatment. They say this is about protecting Americans. They repeat Vance's claims about the father running. So let me be very clear. This family was not breaking the law. They entered legally. They have an active asylum case. Seeking asylum is legal under U.S. and international law. They had no deportation order. They were showing up for court. They did everything right. And ICE still used their 5-year-old son as bait. As for protecting Americans, 5-year-old preschoolers are not threats. Families with no criminal records following asylum law are not threats. Making a child knock on his own door to see who's inside is not about safety. And when a third of students are too scared to go to school because they think ICE might take them, that's not protection. That's terror. I want to go back to that image for a second. That same photo of Liam in his Spider-Man backpack, the one that's gone viral. Think about what that represents. A little kid who probably spent the day playing with blocks or coloring or learning his ABCs. He got in the car with his dad to go home, and then masked agents surrounded them in their own driveway. They took him out of the car, they made him walk to his door, they made him knock. They refused to let any of the adults who offered take him to safety. Then they put him in a vehicle and transported him 1,200 miles to a detention center where children are documented to be losing weight and eating food with worms. That Spider-Man backpack tells you everything you need to know. He's just a little kid. And JD Vance wants you to believe that ICE saved him from freezing to death, that his father abandoned him, that this was necessary to protect Americans. It's propaganda, all of it. The eyewitnesses who were there tell a completely different story. The school officials who offered to take him tell a different story. The lawyer representing the family tells a different story. The photos and videos tell a different story. But Vance doesn't care, because the cruelty is the point. Making families terrified to send their kids to school, that's the point. Making a 5-year-old knock on his own door as bait, That's the point. Transporting children 1,200 miles away from their families to detention centers with horrific conditions. That's the point. This is what authoritarians do. They target the most vulnerable. They use cruelty to send a message. They lie about what happened and count on people not looking too closely at the facts. And when people do look closely, when eyewitnesses come forward, when school officials hold press conferences, when reporters investigate, the claims are flatly contradicted by the evidence. The father ran. The child was abandoned. We saved him from freezing. None of it holds up under scrutiny, but they know that if they repeat it enough, some people will believe it. So here's what we need to do. We need to make sure everyone knows what actually happened. We need to amplify the voices of the people who were there, the school board chair, the city council member, the school superintendent. We need to share those photos of Liam in his Spider-Man backpack so people understand this is a 5-year-old child we're talking about. We need to demand that Liam and his family be released immediately. We need to contact our representatives and tell them this is unacceptable. We need to support immigrant rights organizations that are fighting back against this. And we need to remember that this is part of a pattern. 4 students from one small district in 2 weeks. Attendance down by a third because families are terrified. This isn't isolated. This is systematic. Trump and Vance want to normalize this. They want you to accept that this is just how immigration enforcement works now. They want you to believe their version of events, even when eyewitnesses are saying something completely different. Don't let them. This is not normal. Using a 5-year-old as bait is not normal. Refusing to let school officials care for a child is not normal. Transporting preschoolers 1,200 miles to detention centers is not normal. And we cannot let them convince us that it is. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you as outraged by this as I am? Do you believe Vance's claims or the eyewitnesses who were actually there? What do you think needs to happen next? And if this video helped you understand what really happened to Liam, share it. We need people to see the truth. We need them to see those photos. We need them to hear from the people who were actually there. We're trying to build something here, a community that refuses to look away when things like this happen, a community that pays attention, a community that fights back. Thanks for spending a few minutes digging into this with me. If you want more grounded, progressive commentary without the outrage bait, subscribe and stick around. Every time you watch, share, and engage, it helps build a community that believes democracy is worth understanding and defending. I'll see you in the next video.